Welcome to this week's episode of Where That Baby's Code At, entitled How to Make a Soldier, where we're going on a journey exploring topics that the Black community will benefit from. Today's topic will talk about all of the benefits that come with being in the military. I'll be joined by special guests on each episode, and these special guests have experience in the topics they are discussing. So typically, I will simply be your guide, or they lead us in conversations, but however, this one will be slightly different. These guided conversations will be your metaphorical code as we navigate this cold life. So think of these guided conversations as my attempt of keeping you all warm. With us today, our special guest will tell us about all of these resources you can take advantage of. I know her as Sabine. Sabine is medically retired from the Air Force, where she served in an administrative capacity. Sabine now works for the Air Force in a civilian capacity. Given her experience with the military, it is only fitting that we use her knowledge about benefits of being in. On this side, she also has different endeavors that she embarks on, such as event planning and making jewelry and accessories. Her information will be put in the show notes. As mentioned, this episode will be a bit different from the last, and that I will also be giving information this show, give my personal experience with some of the programs mentioned. This will also be great so you can have both an enlisted and officer point of view in both the Army and Air Force to make a better informed decision. And also, I know Sabine because we went to see Sabine. How are you?
Hi, I am good. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate being a part of this conversation for your listeners because a lot of this information is really good for them to take with them in their personal and professional life. So thank you again for having me.
So I know last episode we talked about the early commissioning program, and I do want to give some background on the early commissioning program. It is very similar to our traditional RTC program. The only difference is the early commissioning programs is 2 years, whereas your traditional ROTC program is 4 years. And there are 4 junior military colleges in the United States. You have Marion Military Institute, which is where I went. You have Valley Forge. You have New Mexico Military Institute. And then you have Georgia Military College. So you go to any one of those 4 military colleges, you get your associate's degree, and you get a commission after 2 years. And then you have 3 years to finish getting your bachelor's at any school in the United States. I chose Syracuse because they have a great early commissioner program to help the lieutenants as they navigate, because it is a unique program. And so I chose Syracuse for that reason. But you can go to any college and they'll pay for either your tuition and fees or your room and board. You get to pick which one you want to go. But that's really the big difference, like I said, is just the 2 years versus the 4 years. And so your time does actually start as a commissioned officer once you commission at the junior military college. So those 2 years that you're getting your bachelor's degree will count towards, you get promotions and stuff like that, which is another, perk. So, Sabina, I know you also did a little research. If you have anything you'd like to add.
I mean, you covered most of it. If you see me shifting over, because I'm referring to some of my notes, but I did read, and I'm not sure. Maybe you can fact check this, or your audience can fact check this afterwards. But I was told that with the ECP for Army specifically, that there is an age limit from like 17 to 23. Don't know how likely that is, but I know that on the Air Force end, when it comes to commissioning in our academy, the Air Force Academy, they do have a very strict age limit. It's around the same. But then I know we also have other commissioning programs like OTS, which is Officer Training School, and then of course regular ROTC. And then for other people to know, usually those come with a little bit of requirements. So some may require a high school diploma, to meet GPA standards. And then, of course, like your Army height and weight standards, able to pass a PT test, like those type of things come up. And I think that's all I read. I also read about benefits, I guess, with like a stipend. I'm assuming they offer like stipends. And so that's really good. And then you can receive like other federal financial assistance and tuition assistance. And I know we'll get into that a little later.
Oh, yeah. All right. And so actually, we're going to get into that right now. So that is my next question. So there are other ways for service members to get a formal education paid for, such as tuition assistance and credentialing assistance. So if you could just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so tuition assistance, or commonly referred to as TA, And then credentialing assistants, referred to as CA, both Army and Air Force have these benefits open to people. So the easiest way to explain the difference between the credentialing assistance and the tuition assistance is that credentialing is usually used for members to obtain a professional credential or licensing required on the civilian side. So your common ones, you'll have like the PMP if you want to do project management, or Sec Plus, or CompTIA if you're trying to get into the cybersecurity field. Those really competitive, those things that make you very competitive, very marketable. Those programs, CA will cover that. Whereas with the tuition assistance, very similar, but more for the academic degrees. So if there's a degree that you're trying to get at a school of your choice that's offered, that is where tuition assistance will likely kick in. There are other programs. I think you guys call it Army Cool, and we refer to it as Air Force Cool. But those are credentialing opportunities that you can get online, and there's a whole plethora of options, like anything that you could think of wanting to get into to get those credentials so that you can grow personally and professionally. That is where something like the credentialing assistance or the tuition assistance would kick in. But they really help bridge that gap between your military experience and what you would need on the civilian sector when it comes to education and personal development.
All right, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, with respect to active duty, because to give our readers a little background on the military and how it's structured, we have branches of service. So we have the Army, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Navy, and we now have Space Force. Yeah, and then I guess we'll add the Coast Guard this time. And so we have those branches of service, and then in those branches we have components. What's called components, which is your active duty, which is your full time. You think of your Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and some people like military police as weekends as well. And then we also have our National Guard and reserves, which are National Guard is kind of like reserves, so that 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out the year, typically in the summer, but it's flexible. 2 weeks out the year is part time. So you have usually a full-time civilian job on the side. And so when it comes to active duty and army reserves in the National Guard, there are certain benefits that that active duty might get that, might necessarily be for reserves or National Guard. There might be some benefits that National Guard gets because they're a state entity as well as a federal entity that, that the active duty and reserves might not get. So can you just talk to us about, these benefits? Well, what's some of these differences with these benefits?
Yeah, so like you prefaced in the beginning, I am former military. I was active duty Air Force, and now I have the pleasure of being a civilian working in a reserve component on a reserve base. And so I deal with some active duty, but I truly deal with reservists and different components within being a reservist, whether it's a traditional reservist or they're called AGRs, Active Guard Reserve. And then we even have arts, and those are those like half civilian, half military positions. But the differences that I've noticed, so as active duty, like you mentioned, full timers, right? We're used to having a lot of resources that are available to us on the spot, and not just on an active duty base, but other bases have those guidance counselors when it comes to education or financially assistance to help you get your funds straightened out. The military really is its own little town, I like to call it, right? We have everything that we need to be self-sufficient. And so active duty, like I said, we know all of those things that are available to us because they're pushed on us to take advantage of. And then feel sometimes reservists and maybe National Guard don't get that push as hard, but they have so many resources open to them as well. And I know we'll touch on it later, but there's so much financial assistance when you start thinking of like how to prepare for your future, right? There's life insurance options, educational opportunities, as we spoke about. There's so many little nuances in different fields within your base that offer these resources to you, whether you're active duty, reserve, veteran, and even spouses.
Thank you. So now I want to talk about more education, but this one is more towards those advanced education opportunities. Okay. So for those that are interested in getting advanced education, such as law school, what are some of the programs that are out there for them that you know of?
Yeah. So again, I speak a lot from the Air Force side, but we are literally brothers and sisters in arms,
Hmm.
right? A lot of our services are exactly the same,
Yeah.
just semantics. And so there are advanced opportunities for law school. There are, at least on our end, we have the JAG program, and so that's for the Judge Advocate program. If you are trying to advance in the law sector, we also have, which is really close to my heart because I pursued it at one point, is the NECP on the Air Force side, the Enlisted Commissioning Program, and then on the Army side, the AECP, and it's AMEDD, Enlisted Commissioning Program, and it's basically the same thing. You're able to come in and go through a nursing program that they will pay for to help you gain your commission eventually, and then you get your bachelor's degree. And you get to, on the enlisted side, you get to retain your enlisted grade and everything like that as you're going through it, and then you're able to commission. Um, for Air Force, what's cool is that if you are enlisted for, I believe it's 4 years, and then you decide to commission, you once you graduate, you get what's called O&E pay, and it's like an officer enlisted pay,
Hmm.
get a little bit more money than the average officer who just went
Hmm.
straight officer. And you get that up to I believe the rank of captain, and then
Hmm.
it kicks to just regular OPay. So that is one of the many degrees that there are out there. So the JAG, the NECP, and then there's also chaplain. Chaplain is one I think may sometimes get overlooked, but there's also a chaplain program, and it pretty much is the same way. It sends you through school. So that you can get the necessary training. And then at the end of that, you're awarded with not just your degree, but a commission.
All right, yeah. And I know from my research, I found some. So this one I found on LinkedIn. So kudos to LinkedIn. It's called the DoD, which stands for Department of Defense Smart Scholarship for Service Program. So
Hmm.
it's a program where anybody that wants an undergrad degree or a grad degree in the STEM field, you can apply for this scholarship, and they'll pay for it, and you get both educational and workforce development. So they pay for your education, and they also give you they'll give you employment within the Department of Defense to get that real life work experience. And just like anything in life, no, there's nothing free in life. And so the money, obviously, every year that they're paying for is the year to give them in a civilian capacity though within the Department of Defense. So that's a little bit better than in a
Yeah.
armed. I mean, somebody in uniform, but that is something. And then in the Army, we also have the Health Professions Scholarship Program,
Mm-hmm.
which covers your full tuition for up to 4 years of medical school. And that's once again, the years they give you is the years they're going to expect you. This one actually in uniform though. And then for the law school, we do have the funded legal education program, which pays for your law school. And like I said, every year is the year you give them a uniform. But one thing I can say about JAG officers, I've never met one that hated their job. So,
Yeah.
it seems like it's worth it to be a
Yeah.
JAG officer in the Army at least.
Definitely worth it. I mean, you're getting a whole degree out of this. And so obviously it's always going to be a give take, right? Like
Hmm.
the military is offering to pay for an entire, those schools are expensive.
Oh,
School,
yeah.
like loans are expensive, right? So imagine being able to not only commission and have a degree that you can have for the rest of your life, but you're debt free,
Yeah,
right? So sometimes you got to give and take, give and
yeah,
take.
look, bigger, pros and cons, the pros outweigh the cons. Exactly, exactly.
Right.
All right, well, let's shift now to healthcare benefits. So, what type of coverage does the military provide for its members, and what makes these more competitive than like private companies?
Yeah, so the military, and I believe it's in all components, all branches, offers TRICARE.
Mhm.
TRICARE is the biggest coverage that we use, and so there's different tiers within TRICARE. TRICARE Prime is probably the most talked about, but there is TRICARE Select, and there's also TRICARE Life, and this is not just for the service members, but also for their dependents. And so active duty, of course, this is something that they get, and then reserve, depending on like active status for 30 plus days or whatever, those options are open to them as well. And so with TRICARE, the coverage is dental, medical, vision, They will cover prescription meds. They will send you to specialists if you need for whatever the issue may be. Same for your dependents. And including mental health care, that which is super important
Oh,
for
yes.
our brothers and sisters in the military. But the coverage is it's really good. It has you get long-term care,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you think about on the civilian sector, TRICARE is really competitive. It's really competitive as far as when you compare pricing and what you get, the bang for your buck, right? You may not get that much coverage on the civilian sector. And if you do get that coverage might cost you an arm and a leg. But the one thing that I would always tell people to consider when they do have TRICARE is that some of these like hospitals, care facilities, whatever, don't take TRICARE, and it's not that they don't trust it. It's just a lot of towns, especially if they're not like a fully military, recognized town, they just never heard of it, so they're unsure. So that is always something to consider, is that if you are using your private insurance, your Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you're looking for a civilian private sector healthcare, whatever, to make sure that you ask if they take TRICARE, because you can use your TRICARE and then maybe you can fill in the gaps with your civilian Blue Cross Blue Shield. But that is always something to consider. But TRICARE was always good to me. There's different networks. So within the US, there's different networks of TRICARE, and then it's not just here. It doesn't just stop here, right? Because we deploy, we move all over the world. So there is TRICARE and military bases and military hospitals that do take care of you overseas.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So now, this next question is for our listeners that are interested in home ownership. What are some of the benefits or programs that's out there for those that are interested in getting a home? And then what are some of the stipulations to apply for those home loans?
So the biggest one that you would probably hear from just about everybody is the VA home loan. The VA home loan is a VA-backed loan for veterans. I personally use it. This is my house. This is the VA home loan that helped get me this house. Thank you. But what's good is that with the VA home loan, you are not required to put a down payment on the property that you're trying to get. Now, if the company that you're trying to get like requires something on their own to maybe reserve a house or something, that's different. But you're not required to put any down payment. You're also not required to provide private mortgage insurance. So I know sometimes they'll try to swindle you into saying you have to have private mortgage insurance. You do not with the VA loan, and it's a lifetime benefit. So if I bought a house now and I wanted to sell this house and maybe buy a bigger house or something, that I still have my VA loan to use. I can still use it as many times as I want, as long as I'm not like defaulted on it. And even if you are defaulted or having financial troubles, the VA home loan will help you. It tries to really take care of the members. So there are financial assistance and guides and programs to get you in a stable place if you're having difficulties with that mortgage. The things that you need to qualify for it, right?
Yeah.
It's called a certificate of eligibility, or your COE. You can get it on va.gov, I believe. You can get a copy of it. And all it is proof that you have served or are serving in the military. That's all they need. I personally would recommend going through companies that are very familiar with working with VA-backed loans and can understand your COE. So companies like Navy Federal, USAA, Rocket Mortgage, Veterans United. There's so many out there, but those are the top ones that stick in my head. I use Navy Federal. So yeah, there's plenty of it's such a good home loan. When I compared it to the others that are out there, they just couldn't match it. The percentages and everything, the interest rate and everything was just perfect for me and in the situation that I was in to secure a home.
Okay. So it sounds like if somebody want to get a house, you better consider the military, okay? Because they hook you up. It's like they'll decide to hook you up.
Yes.
All right. So for those who like to travel, such as yourself, such as myself. This one is for us.
It
So,
is.
what kind of benefits is this for people that like to travel?
Oh man, there are all sorts of benefits for people who want to travel that are within the service as active duty. Maybe they're veterans, retirees, dependents, disabled veterans. There's so many things that are out there. So in the closer end of when we're talking about military, if you wanted to PCS, so moving from state to state or country to country, if you wanted to TDY, or even deployments, right? We're familiar with deployments. Those are travel opportunities. They may not always seem like it because it's work related,
Yeah.
but it is a travel opportunity that you may not have been afforded in your civilian life beforehand. Outside of that, there's programs like if you go onto Military One Source, there's a ton of programs on there that will talk about discounts that are available, whether it's a cruise or a flight. If you look for American Forces, I think American Forces travel on Military One Source. You also have the Shades of Green Resort that is in, I believe, Orlando. It is a Disney resort, and that is literally offered for military and their guests.
Mm.
Other things that you consider TSA pre-check. If you have a DoD ID, you plug that in as your TSA number, and now you got TSA pre-check, right? So you don't got to remove your shoes and all that stuff. You just walk through freely. Even the USO, when you're in the airports, there's USO lounges that are there for military and their families. You have some airlines that compensate you for or provide free checked bags or free discounted checked bags for you and your family. There's so many things out there.
Mhm.
Other travels, I would say, if you're on a military base and you need to, you're considering traveling, look and see if they offer RTT or ITT. Those are those travel offices or travel liaisons within military bases to help you get free or discounted trips. And
Mhm.
your MWR, which is like your military welfare and recreation, they also offer a ton of things, whether it's something local, like a sports game and you get free sports tickets, or a local race happening for NASCAR. Like there are so many benefits for traveling. That's a whole other episode.
It definitely is. I know I was looking at some of the travel benefits, and so if
Mhm.
there's anybody that if because flights are expensive, especially nowadays, flying is expensive. They
Yeah.
have what's called space available or space A travel, which
Mhm.
allows you to board a Department of Defense aircraft that has extra seats. The stipulation to that is that it does not impede the mission of the aircraft and that there is space for you. So after they get rid of, or after they see everybody that needs to be on that flight, if there are extra seats, then they'll allow you to join on that flight. And you're in the military, obviously, and it'll fly you from that base to obviously to the base the mission is going to. So if you just happen to be going in that direction, it's kind of like, well, you're going, take me with. So it's one of those things. So they do have space A, which and it's free, like I said. So there's one less thing they'll have to worry about if you are traveling and you happen to be going that way. You already covered TSA pre-check. That was the big one because I use that as well. I love TSA pre-check. I pay
Listen.
lines. Okay, look, and you don't have to pay for it. It's just free because they trust you.
Yeah.
So like, you can't beat that. And then there's also this group called the Armed Forces Vacation Club, which puts out different vacations and different packages and stuff like that that you can take advantage of. And you get free membership to that as a member of the Armed Forces. Now, they do have a premium membership. I'm not sure the difference between the premium and the regular. You have
Mhm.
to look that up. I will provide the link, though, in the show notes. But if you get free membership with the Armed Forces Vacation Club. And so that's another travel. Plus, tons of discounts on hotels and cars and other.
All.
So there's just so much, like she said, when it comes to travel. And so if you
Mhm.
like to travel, the military is definitely a place to consider. I would
Right.
say.
That definitely started my travel adventures.
I
Is
know
when I.
that's right. Yeah, I definitely. That's why I say, places I've been, I haven't been out of the country yet, but places I've been inside the country, I can thank the military for it because the military has allowed me to go these places. So
Yes.
definitely. All right, next I want to talk about life insurance with the military. So can you just talk us through the military's life insurance, SGLI, what makes it competitive, and then what are limitations to their use?
Yeah, so service members group life insurance, SGLI, it's a low cost life insurance that allows you to when I came in, it was up to $400,000, but is now raised to $500,000,
Mm-hmm.
500K in coverage. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the rate for that is like $30 a month. Like,
Yeah.
where do you get that anywhere else? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Dollars to, and so then it makes it one less thing for you as a service member or your dependents to have to worry about if for any reason something happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's one less burden. There's even burial and like funeral um benefits that are included in that stuff, and you can find a lot of that at va.gov or anything. But then once you get out, you're not it doesn't just stop there. You can get VGLI, which is the veterans group life insurance, and so that's available to you once you get out. Your last day, that's available to you for about 120 days after your last day. Of course, there's limitations on military status and different things of that nature, but for the most part, that is the life insurance that is offered to you. And you don't have to get 500K worth of coverage. There are different levels depending on what you're
Mm-hmm.
comfortable paying. But let me tell you, in the civilian world, it's very competitive, right?
Yeah,
Like, find something like that, I would take advantage of it very quickly.
definitely. And I know with the VGLI, when if you decide to roll over to the VGLI, it's whatever you got as SGLI, that's the amount you also get a VGLI. So it's not like, you got half a million and then you get out
Depending
and now
on-
you're going down to 200,000. No,
Yeah.
you keep half a million as VGLI. And you
Yeah.
do have up to 120 days to convert it. Now, obviously there's stipulations like if you got disability, then they can and will extend to up to a year or two for you, but it doesn't even take that long to convert it. And it can be VGLI or an individual insurance, whatever you want to do. I will do VGLI. But
Yeah.
and so yeah, there are uh like Sabine said, there are certain limitations with regard to status. And so some of the statuses, actively serving and whether it's active capacity or reserve capacity.
Mhm.
You got to be in RTC or in the service academy, which every most of the components have their own service academy. There are a few that don't. But so basically a cadet, or be a commissioned member of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA, or the
Mhm.
United States Public Health Services, USPHS, or be a volunteer in an individual rate reserve mobilization category. So if you're in either of those categories, you qualify for SGLI, and that is something you can take advantage of.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, no, it's very helpful.
Yes, very okay. That way, if something does happen, God forbid, now your parents are gonna get on, GoFundMe, to
Yeah,
for people
right.
try to get you some money to bury you.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
one less thing for them to worry about.
And even for my disabled folks, I don't know if I mentioned it yet. I'm medically retired. And so sometimes our disabled veterans forget that they do have help out there. And so contacting your local VA or going on the va.gov site to really see how many benefits are open to you, especially as a disabled vet and for your spouses, they really try to take care of you and minimize the burden of anything that may have been caused while you were in the military or that is aggravated after you're out of the military because of something in the military. And so really spread that word for veterans, disabled veterans, and their dependents, because sometimes dependents think that as soon as their veteran, their service member is no longer here, that the benefits stop. And that's not necessarily true. Of course, there's limitations, but they want to make sure that they take care of you as best as they can.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're all one family. We all decide to
Exactly.
serve, so they're gonna make sure they take care of their own. Definitely. All right. Now there are certain memberships that are exclusive to the military and their families, such as Navy Federal Credit Union and USAA, which I have both of those. Thank God. So can you talk to us about the benefits of these memberships?
Yeah, so I too have both of them. I have
Mm-hmm.
Navy Federal and I also have USAA. And those are the memberships that are it's exclusively open to military and their family,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they have checkings accounts, they have savings accounts. The good thing about those accounts is that there's no monthly maintenance fees. There's no monthly balance that has to be in there. You're not going to get charged because you didn't keep a certain amount in your account. There's pay advances. So let's say you normally get paid on a Friday and you'd like to get paid earlier. They might hit you with being paid on a Wednesday, and now
Mm-hmm.
suddenly your week is better.
Yeah.
But there's tons of discounts, there's tons of rewards. There's low loan rates that are offered to you. So when you think about that home loan, right? I go through Navy Federal because it was the most competitive for me versus other companies. So those things are offered to you. And like I said, it's not just for military, like active duty retired separated, but also your family. And then one thing that I'd like to highlight, two other accounts actually, is the American Express Platinum card and the Chase Sapphire Reserve card. So both of those cards, very elite cards with tons of benefits. Those cards have a $450 annual fee. But for military, they waive that fee. And it's not like they waive it and then you get half the discounts. No, they waive it and you have the opportunity to take full advantage of all the discounts as you would someone who is paying the $450 annual fee. So that's amazing to know
Oh yeah.
because I too have those cards as well. And like I said, you get to take advantage, whether it's free concert tickets or free trips or anything that you can think of. Those cards are available to you exclusively as military for free.
Oh, sounds like I'm going to get a new credit card. But no, just playing. Let me work the one I got down first, and then we can talk. All right. So, can you tell us more about federal protections for our service members through the SCRA?
Yeah. So the SCRA is a service member civil relief act. And there's a website that will really go into detail for you. It's scra.dmdc.osd.mil, but you'll have that in the
Yeah.
show notes. But they offer protection to service members who are called to duty, right? So whether you're active duty or you're that reserve or guard component, and you're called to duty for things, they take care of you legally and financially when it comes to burdens. So you don't have to worry about like the fact that you're leaving to go assist and serve your country and leaving maybe your personal duties behind, because they will try to make sure that you stay out of any troubles that may affect you while you're serving. So reducing rates on any debts that you may have, they can reduce rates up to 6% as a max for any liabilities of debt that you incurred prior. You also have voting rights. So maybe you're not in the state that you're resident of, and you're missing the voting deadlines. There's voting rights for you. There's also foreclosure and eviction protection if you're dealing with any of that. Those are the things that I can think of off the top of my head, but it's really beneficial so that the service member can really focus on the job that they're there to do without having to worry about potentially losing a home when they come back from serving.
Yeah, it's very, it's meant to, like you said, to help us focus on the mission, because
Mm-hmm.
lives
Mm-hmm.
depend on it. Some of
Yes.
the ones that I've noticed, and I want to highlight, with respect to residency, there is that voting, like you said. There's also when it comes to taxes. So,
Mm-hmm.
you won't be affected if you have to move to another state because of your duty, paying taxes on that state because of your service
Oh.
connection. So, if let's say for example in New York, taxes are is high. Okay, they're high. But if you're in and I can speak from a real life example, my friend, he went up here to Syracuse for college and he's in the military. And so, he was in Tennessee though, that's where his residency is. And Tennessee doesn't have to pay income tax, state income tax.
Mm-hmm.
So he wouldn't have to pay the New York tax. He could still pay the Tennessee income tax, which makes it easier, because now you only have one income tax to pay, which is your federal at that point. So, if you are in a state that doesn't have any income tax and you go to the military, just know you good, okay? I'm
Same
not
here.
fortunate.
I'm
I
in
say
Florida.
not in Alabama either, okay?
Yeah, right. I am in Florida. It is they
Okay.
take care of us. We don't got those.
Oh my goodness. I wish. I wish, okay?
But that's interesting. It's great that you say that because when I did live in Massachusetts, Massachusetts likes to tax you for everything,
Mm,
and I got hit with what they call an excise tax there. I think it was for my vehicle, and honestly, I was able to go to I think it was my JAG office,
yeah.
or it might have been comp. It might have been either JAG or comptroller, but I was able to get a letter that says, "Hey, because she's a resident of this state, Florida,
Hmm.
and she's currently here serving, she is exempt from paying that tax."
Yeah.
So
Cool.
you never know. You like ask anytime you get hit with any type of tax thing,
Mm,
where you're currently stationed, maybe go
you
ask
gotta
and see,
check in.
yeah, see if you're waived, see if you're exempt.
Yeah, exactly. And not only with the taxes, but like they also you can defer it. You know, if you're not able
Mhm.
to file your tax on time because of your obligation, maybe you're deported
Yes.
or something. You know, then you can either defer, which means you won't be hit. You know, you won't the IRS won't be coming after you. So that's not a good thing to think about. And then
Yeah.
the biggest one, or one of the bigger ones, or another one that I've noticed I want to highlight is for those small business owners. You
Mhm.
know, assuming that you've been in business for yourself. You know, me kind of having my business as well. You know, with the LLC and whatnot. If we were to get deployed, we to have a service obligation, and we're not able to keep up with the overhead. You know, there are
Right.
protections out there for the small business owners to make sure that we're not going into a deficit because of our service obligation with
Mhm.
our business. So that is something else for those small business owners that might be thinking about military. You're
Good to know.
protected. Yeah. All right. Now I want to talk about more federal protections, but these are through USERRA. So could you talk to our reservists about USERRA and the protections they have?
Yeah, so Yasera is really important because, like you said, for the reservists, and it's not just for the reservists, anybody called to duty, right?
Hmm.
But specifically for our reservists because you serve part-time. I say part-time, but you're really serving all the time
Yeah.
because the reservist's main duty is to deploy, right?
Hmm.
So you serve, which means that you have to leave your civilian life to go handle your obligations. And so sometimes people are fearful of, missing out on certain promotions or anything in their civilian job, or maybe the possibility of getting fired. Well, USERRA protects that. So that's again one less burden for you to have to worry about when you're serving. But it is really those civilian job rights. And so you're protected against reemployment, you're protected against health insurance protection. So like when you have open season for health insurance and let's say you miss the date, you're protected. You can still file because of that Yasera right for you. You don't, there's no denials of retention, there's no denials of promotion, anything like that while serving. And so it really helps you be free from discrimination based on your military service.
Yeah. And I know that I personally had to have taken advantage of USERRA before, even with this job I just got. So we thank God for USERRA. All right. Lastly, let's shift to retirement. Can you walk us through the TSP program?
Yeah, so the Thrift Savings Plan is a retirement program, also an investment program. So when we think on the civilian side, we think of our 401ks, the IRAs, and the Roth, right? You have those options, that Roth TSP, that IRA TSP. But it is that 401k for you. And let me tell you, it's very competitive compared to what you would get on the civilian side. Um, you it has lower expenses. I have a higher um, risk-free advantage on my return. The federal sector, whatever portion that you're in, will usually match it, so that's really good. And I believe they you're almost required, they don't force you, but they push
Mm.
for you to have one and contribute at least 3% of your check to it because let me tell you, it climbs very quickly. I served, and I never really like I touched it and I kind of like let it go in that first couple of years, and it had skyrocketed. And then I really got into it and started to learn that you can play with the funds that you have if you want to take more risk and you want to gain more on your return and things like that. And I started playing with it because I was given the advice that while I was young I had that opportunity, and it skyrocketed even more.
Mm.
And I just couldn't believe like how it's so easy. TSP now has a an app, so you can check it from your phone.
Mm.
Before you can do that, it was very hard. You had to do it like through mail.
Yeah.
I feel like shows my age, but but you can do it on your phone now. You can check your accounts and everything, and then it can really grow with you and whatever you have going on in life, right? So maybe in the beginning, when I was young and vivacious and willing to take risk, I would I would raise my risk and take a gamble on that, so to speak. But then as I mellow out and maybe I'm starting to consider a family or anything like that, I can start to decrease those risks that I'm taking and put my funds in something like a G fund and just kind of let it cruise. So it never really dips, but it's growing gradually with me. And I thought it's amazing. And so when I went on the civilian side, it didn't just stop at my military. I now have a civilian TSP and I am able to see both of those accounts. And so maybe this one account, I'm playing with it a little bit because I have the funds to do so. And this civilian account over here, I want to be a little bit more reserved. And so you have that option. And so it's just really, it's a really good return. I haven't come across any that can truly beat that. Especially as the economy changes and everything, TSP is where it go.
Oh yeah. Oh, it definitely is. Okay. That's the same advice they give us. I'm like, you're young, so invest in those iPhones.
Do
Yeah.
it.
So definitely, I need to go check mine. You just said,
Yes. Look at that whole fun.
okay, yeah. All right. So when it comes to retirement and disability in the military, what's the benefit of getting a disability? And will getting a disability prevent potential service members from getting other employment post military?
So that's a loaded question, right?
Mhm.
It really depends on the type of disability. It depends on the percentage. As I said earlier, I'm medically retired, right? So I am treated like a retiree. So I have retiree benefits and I can take advantage of all those benefits, but I receive a disability check, right? I don't get a retirement check because I didn't do the 20 plus years, but I do get to reap the benefits of a retiree. Um, Things really progress for you if you're 10% to 30% to 90 to 100. That 100% is really where I feel the world changes, right? The amount of money that they will contribute to you because you're a disabled vet, the amount of benefits that open up to you at 100%, like not having to pay property taxes, receiving discounts for certain companies, receiving that monthly check. And what's really good is when you're looking for that transition, to answer the question about does it prevent you from getting a job after, it does not. I have a job and I know many veterans that have jobs. And so when you go on to those USA jobs and you're looking for another federal employment so that you can transition into your civilian life, there's categories open up to you just for you, right? Just for the disabled veteran, just for the dependents and spouses of those veterans. You have programs like the VEOA and the VRA, which are special authority programs looking to hire specifically those 30% and above veterans or anything like that. If it's service connected, and I wanted to mention this and I didn't write it down, but if it's service connected, even if it's 0%, if you have a 0% rating, that is a rating. And that makes it service connected and that makes it a disability. And so you really have to think about that because it does play a part in the care that you receive after from like the VA and the retirement and everything that happens, right?
Mhm.
Maybe it was 0% when you got out, and as you got older, the body does its thing, and maybe that 0% needs to be reevaluated, and now suddenly it's a 30%, right? You really got to keep that because it really does help you. Other things that I would mention, like I said, the VRA and the VEOA are there to help you gain employment. There's also a program called VRNE. It's the Veteran Readiness and Employment Program, and it is an educational and career benefit. And so when I tell you they will pay down to the pencil, that's what I was told, and that's how I tell it to other people. But if you wanted to go into photography, let's say, right? And so you think you need the degree for it so you can prove your skill on paper, and you need the camera for it, and you need the laptop for it because you have to edit your pictures, whatever that looks like. The VRNE will pay for all of that to get
Wow.
you to a place where you are ready for employment. And even when you finish whatever the program is, whether it's a degree or certificate, they will even help get you some resume coaching and resume writing to make sure that you are good all the way up into you nailing a job. And so when you compare that with using other benefits open to service members like Yellow Ribbon program, um, I mean, the world is your oyster, right? Like you, again, debt free is what we're trying to be,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yes.
So you can get all this offered to you for free. You take
Mhm.
advantage, and I feel like the VRNE is not talked about enough. But the
Mhm.
funds are there. Look it up on va.gov. It talks more about it. You get your rep, and your rep will help you get through it. So you are not done. You are not alone, anything like that when you leave the military. There's so many benefits out there for you. And then when you talk about employment after retirement, right? Because
Mhm.
reality of the matter is, once you retire from the military, life doesn't end, right? Bills still need to be paid.
Oh yes.
So you really got to get that employment in your civilian life, right? And so there's what's called VRGs, they're veteran resource groups, and many companies have them. Why they don't talk about them as much, I don't know. That's a different story. But they do have them in place specifically for veterans because sometimes we leave the military, whether we're active duty or reservist or guard, and we have a hard time trying to translate what we did into civilian terms. And that is what these VRGs are for. They're to have somebody like you, the face of somebody who has been in the military, be able to speak to the things that you have done and really be able to grow a team of other veterans. Because one thing that companies like, and it doesn't matter what your status is, the military to them shows that you can do something, you can commit to something,
Mhm.
right? From beginning to end. You know how to backwards plan. We come with so many skills, we just find a hard time explaining that in civilian
Yeah.
terms,
Translated.
right? Like it just sounds funny sometimes when we say, "Oh, I've managed a budget of $3 million," and you're like, "How?"
Yeah.
But we really did,
Really. Yeah.
right?
Think about all the equipment. Look.
We really did, yeah. And
Yeah.
so having to explain that and really have somebody advocate for you and be in support of the team of other veterans, that is what VRGs are for. So definitely reach out to companies that you're interested in, you wanted to work for, and see if they have a VRG. That may open up opportunities, internships, and just an overall network connection.
Yeah, I know Sabine and I, we've met through what's called at Syracuse University called immersion trips. And so those immersion trips were very eye opening. Like all the companies, and that's the good thing about it, almost all the companies that we visited, they always talked about their BRGs and they made sure to bring those. So what Sabine saying, it's truth. There's truth behind it. They have those to be that face and to help you get land a job. So there's so many resources out there for you to join. For you, if you're in the military is a great place, great community. I mean, it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect, but it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a place that if you work hard enough and make it work for you, then you can get so much out of it. And for those that are in the military, but you're still like, well, what about me? I want workplace disability. Know that you can get workplace disability through what's called workers' compensation claims and benefits. So
Mm-hmm.
what I want you all to do is to stay tuned for the next episode. That will be for the people that are injured by job-related injuries and illnesses. Let's get warm. Where the
Thank
Baby's
you.
Code At is hosted by Aldrich Cade. It is recorded, edited, and produced by Aldrich Cade LLC. Thank you.